Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to this week's Journey's Gem, and I hope that you've had a really great weekend and are rejuvenated, ready to head into this coming week. So, as I introduced last week, we are doing a series on trust and Brene's work and her research around what the elements of trust are and how it's important to know the types of behaviors that people do that actually help us to trust them better. So you can go back and have a look at the previous video for my introduction to trust and the marble jar, and also to braving. This week we are going to look at boundaries and reliability. So I talked about last week that Brene discovered 7 elements in her research around things that can be really helpful to help us work out who we can trust and how we can also trust ourselves. And so the acronym is BRAVING, BRAVING, and it stands for boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. So this week we're going to look at boundaries and reliability, and then for the rest of the weeks we'll keep unpacking braving. So this week it's boundaries and reliability. So when we talk about boundaries in relation to trust, the simple definition that Brene uses in her research, which came from one of her friends, is what's okay and what's not okay. That is the really simple definition of boundaries. What's okay and what's not okay. So when we're setting boundaries with other people, it's about articulating with them what's okay and what's not okay. And also being actually willing to say no to things. That's about setting boundaries. And you know what? I'm someone who has often struggled with boundaries. I think it's one element that got me to burnout many years ago, and it's something that I continue to work on. It's my default is definitely less to just let everybody cross my boundaries now, but it's still an intentional thing that I need to remember and look at. So as I said, when we're looking at boundaries, it's about thinking about what's okay and what's not okay. So in a trust issue in a relationship, it might be thinking about, does this person cross my boundaries? When I've articulated it, when we've had a conversation about it, are they crossing my boundaries? And you're able to then, I guess the good thing about this braving acronym and these elements of trust is that when you have an issue with someone in a relationship or at work or a friendship, you're able to then go to them and be really specific about what the issue is. So instead of saying, I can't trust you, there's trust issues, you can actually come to them and say, you know what, I'm just really struggling at the moment because I feel like my boundaries are being crossed. I need to reset these boundaries with you. And so that is what we're looking at when we're looking at B for the braving acronym, boundaries. The second one is reliable or reliability. So Brene says this in her book. She says, under reliability, you do what you say you'll do. At work, this means staying aware of your competencies and limitations so you don't overpromise and are able to deliver on commitments and balance competing priorities. So it's a good example around reliability at work, but it's exactly the same in our personal relationships. So being reliable is showing up somewhere at the time when you say you're going to show up. If you're not going to be there, you let people know. It can also be with that competency thing, it's the same with priorities in our personal life. So if you say yes to something, and this is reliability and boundaries work really well together. If you say yes to something and then you know that you have overcommitted, your priorities have got a little bit mixed up, it's actually about going back and saying, actually, you know what, I overstepped my commitment level, my priorities have changed or shifted. Can we have a conversation about this? Because I don't want to be unreliable and say that I can do something and then cancel 2 minutes before. So thinking about reliability, and also when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And I think this is where it gets really interesting as well. In the braving acronym, there's integrity, and in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about Brene's definition of integrity. But I think in our society, we think integrity is doing what you say you're going to do. And although, yes, that's one of the definitions of integrity, that's also being reliable. You know, when you say you're going to do something, actually showing up and doing it. So they're the first two elements of trust. And again, if you're feeling like someone is not living up to the commitments that they've made, you're able then to have that conversation with them and be able to, instead of saying, I can't trust you with whatever, you're actually able to say, you know what, I'm really struggling to trust that you're going to show up, because for the last 5 times you've said you're going to be somewhere and you don't show up. So you can see how breaking down trust can actually help to have, I guess, a more focused conversation around what the issues actually are. So I'm going to leave it there for today. So we've started with boundaries and reliability. Next week we'll look at accountability, vault, and integrity. So I hope you have a great week. Any questions or comments, pop them in the comments below. And I'm happy to answer them. I hope you have a really great week, and have a think about what boundaries do you need to set in your own life, and where do you need to focus on being reliable. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.